Welcome to Greenshine Farmers video blog about a family starting a farm and going back to the homestead lifestyle.
Hey guys, welcome to Greenshine Farmers. Today we're going to do an episode on the biggest mistakes that new farmers make. Now this is going to be our 4th year as an actual farm, and during that time we've made plenty of mistakes. So today we're just going to go through and talk about some of them and how they can best be avoided. Alright, now the number one mistake that most new farmers make is they take on way too much land. Most people have this idea that in order to be a farm, you've got to be farming, at least 40 acres. And that's what I always thought until I kind of got turned on to people like Curtis Stone and J.M. Fortier who were doing, significant production on small acreage. So, I mean, right here, we're in between our two plots, and this is probably around half an acre. So we have maybe just around half an acre, and for just a BCS and a small staff, this is a lot of work. I mean, you can see over here, these beds haven't even been worked yet. So, we just started to work those beds up here. That's our high tunnel that got ripped apart by the wind. I'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got these beds here that we've got in a ryegrass cover crop. And then we've got all this. Haven't even begun to work this stuff, and it's gonna be a lot of work when we do. So basically, we've just been occupied with maybe a little over 1/3 of an acre, and I'll tell you what, it's a lot of work, especially if you're doing quick growing crops like salad greens. So I would say, it's better to have 1/3 of an acre or 1/4 of an acre even under solid production with very little weed pressure. You've got your irrigation dialed in, you've got your soil right. Than having 5 acres of weeds and problems everywhere. It could just overwhelm you really fast. So in addition to taking on way too much land, most people try to do way too many things, It's very common to, start learning about permaculture and small-scale farming and all of this and just want to do it all because it's all so cool, You say, I want to do worms, I want to do chickens, I want to do pigs, we're going to do hugel mounds, we're going to do all it's trust me. Find one thing, preferably something that you can cash flow if you're trying to make it a business, and just focus on that first. It's okay to have other little projects, but first get one of them down before taking on way too much. And I mean, last year we were still really busy, but we wanted to have chickens because we were buying eggs and we're like, we can't be a farm without chickens, right? So, I'm in our little chicken coop here, and there's no more chickens. We had to get rid of them all. They kept escaping and getting into the barn, and honestly, they just weren't really happy with this poor structure that I built for them. And the thing is, I was really busy. It was kind of just something we slapped together, and it kind of shows. And the chickens weren't happy here. I didn't really feel like I was giving them what they needed. They were just kind of like, oh, now I gotta go do the chickens. It was just like an extra thing. So I would say to avoid overwhelming yourself, start small and then gradually add things as you sort of get a handle on the first thing. All right, the third biggest mistake that most new farmers make is they take on way too much debt. And we are guilty as anybody of this. Now, it's hard because if you're not starting with much money, you don't really have a choice. One option for us would have been to start with a little garden and I get an off-farm job, and then we just gradually try to build without taking on a lot of debt. I didn't want to do that. I'm pretty foolhardy, and I just wanted to dive right in and be a full-time farmer. So we moved down here with little money, a 6-month-old, and a property that needed a lot done to it. And likewise, we've done a lot to it, but that has all come with a lot of debt, all these tunnels, the pack shed, the refrigerated trailer, not just to mention that the camper that we live in, all this stuff, not to mention what we put into the soil. I mean, we've put thousands and thousands of dollars into the soil because that's, really where our living is made. So, third biggest mistake is just taking on way too much debt, and the more debt you take on, the faster you have to cash flow it to be able to pay off all that debt. Otherwise, you just get eaten alive by interest. Okay, another big mistake new farmers make is they spend their money on the wrong things. You know, you're new to this, so it's really hard to know where you're going to get the greatest ROI. And so, and also, like I said, if you're not starting with much money, you try to take the cheaper alternative at a lot of different turns because you feel like you don't have any choice. But I'll tell you what, sometimes you just have to spend a little bit more and get something that's quality. You know, I'll give you an example. Pretty much anything that you're going to use every day, spend a little bit extra and get something really nice. You know, I've got these muck boots, right? Don't skip out on the muck boots. We live in probably one of the rainiest areas in the United States. I wear these things every single day, and it took me probably 4 or 5 pairs of the Walmart brand and just getting, you know, angry because they continually got new holes in them before I finally broke down and actually bought a really good pair of muck boots. Go with the original. Don't try to get any knockoffs. Just spend a little bit extra. Another thing over here, and I know I've talked about this again, and yes, it's because it was a tough lesson to learn, but this old yard machine, you know, I spent $400 on that at a pawn shop, and it was a terrible, I mean, I couldn't even get through one round of cutting the grass without it breaking. Tried to fix it, which was even a worse idea because I'd fix it and something else would break. It was a never-ending project. So for certain things like work gear and certain tools, like, you know, we went and we got this Troy build, and it's not super impressive, but it does the job. It was brand new, so it didn't really need anything done to it. Then over here we've got our BCS. Now we went with the 853 because, you know, we just wanted that extra power, and this is a machine that we use a lot. So, you know, on anything that you're going to be using on a regular basis, spend a little bit more, get something that's not going to break on you, because if it breaks on you and you need to fix it, now you're out that time. One thing I should add on there is spend the extra money on seeds, soil, and soil amendments. You know, I tried to skimp on seeds a little bit, and I found a cheaper provider, and I saw increased disease, and it just wasn't worth it. You know, if you're losing yield because you try to save, you know, 15 bucks on a pound of seed, it doesn't really make sense. So my 2 favorite providers would be High Mowing and Johnny's. You know, they do great stuff. I'm sure there's other great seed providers out there. There's a really good local company here called So True Seed that I really like, but for most of what we do, these 2 guys they put out really good products, and they're continually improving their varieties. You know, same thing with soil amendments. You don't have to just go to the gardening store, and first of all, don't go to the gardening store because it's going to be way more expensive. Find a bulk you know, farm provider, somebody who's meant to sell to farms versus like a garden shop that's just mainly tailored towards home gardeners. So, but when you do that, make sure you spend a little bit extra and get top quality soil amendments and get top quality compost. Definitely don't skip on the compost. If you're going to put all the time into applying it, putting it into your field, I mean, this is literally what your soil is going to be composed of. So don't skip on any of those things, and you'll have a much easier time. All right, another really common mistake that most new farmers make is they overpromise and they underdeliver. And again, I've been guilty of this as anybody. It's just really hard. You get so excited about what you have, about what you're doing, and you go in there to a new chef and you pitch them this, and they're like, great, let's do it. And then maybe after 2 weeks, though, you realize that your production's really not geared up, and then you have to tell them that, you know, sorry, I don't really have anything for you this week. It's better to hold off on new accounts until you know that you can supply them, because, you know, this is a business, and business is built on trust. And if you're telling somebody that you're going to have something and then you don't have it, that trust is weakened. The more times you do that, the worse the relationship's going to be. You know, most chefs and most grocery store produce managers, they're pretty understanding. They understand that we're out here dealing with the elements. It's not an easy job, and most of them will work with you, but you want to be up front. You want to tell them as soon as you know that you're not going to be able to fulfill your promise, and just, again, just try to err on the side of caution when it comes to what you say you're going to have. It's always better to show up and be like, hey, I got a little bit more, than to show up and be short. It really is not a good way to develop a long-term relationship. All right, another really important tip is to underestimate your revenue and overestimate your expenses. This is said so often in business startup that it's kind of a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. You will probably make half as much as you're expecting to make, and you will probably at least double your expenses. And for us, this has been more than true. So do your Excel sheet, get your numbers, try to be as accurate as possible, and then cut your revenue in half and double your expenses. If it doesn't work out and you have more revenue than you thought and less expenses, great. But just to be safe, so that you're not out of business after your first season, try to take really conservative numbers, because everything costs more. There's always things you don't think about. Things break, things happen, and with revenue, it's never as rosy as you think. I thought we were going to come down here and we'd be doing $100K our first year. That was extreme. I think we did $20,000 our first year, and and just had to really fight for survival. So I've learned over the years to taper my expectations and to kind of try to get a more realistic view on things, because if you overblow your projections, it might make you feel good in the moment, but you're going to pay for it later. Alright, now for the biggest mistake that new farms make: they give up too soon. This is a really, really hard job. I'm in one of our high tunnels right now. This is one of them that we didn't have a chance to fix, and we woke up and saw that our tunnels are pretty much ripped apart. That's a very defeated feeling. I feel like I just got punched in the face. And there's definitely going to be times where you want to quit. You're so beaten down mentally, physically, that it almost feels like you can't go on any further. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to quit than to keep going. So I would say, in order to make sure that you can keep going, my tip would be, make sure you know why you're doing this. Why do you want to farm? What are you trying to do? Because that reason, your why, is what's going to carry you through when things get really hard. When I get down like that, when I think about, and the thought of even quitting even crosses my mind, there's just nothing else I want to do. I mean, plain and simple, this is what I was meant to do. I feel it so deeply in me, and there's just nothing else I want to do. So that keeps me going, no matter how many tunnels get wrecked or what kind of setbacks we have. It's just like, okay, we'll figure out a solution and we'll keep moving forward. Alright guys, that just about wraps it up. I hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. I hope I was able to shed some light on some things. And feel free to comment down below. I know we have a lot of farmers that watch this channel. I probably forgot mistakes that I've made or that you may have made. So let's share it. This is all about kind of helping each other, because we're all in it together. We're all trying to figure out how to be more self-sufficient, how to grow food, and really how to better the planet. So share whatever mistakes you've made, and yeah, let's start a little conversation. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.
If you guys like this video and you'd like to see more like it, leave us a comment down below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, visit us at greenshinefarms.com and follow us on Instagram at greenshinefarms. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.